Welcome to another Department of Theater and Dance here at Casper College Facebook Live. We are live here with Ms. Chontelle Gray, who is our scenic designer and also lighting designer here at Casper College. And we're going to be talking a little bit today about some of the technical aspects of the upcoming show that we have. The upcoming show is a rock and roll fantasy. And we had interviewed Aaron Wood last week about it to give you a little bit of an idea of what it is about. And that was from an artistic point of view. Now we're going to look at it from the artistic director point of view. Now we're going to look at it from the artistic scenic design and lighting design point of view. Chontelle, welcome.
Thank you.
It's nice to have you on today.
I was afraid you were going to say that my stuff wasn't artistic. I was going to have to slap you around.
Baby!
I was like, you better.
Everything that we do is artistic.
Yes, it is.
That's it exactly. And this is a challenge for you because this show is not like any other dance show that we've had, because this is more multimedia.
Very much so.
Versus the traditional theater set.
Right.
So how did you approach that at the beginning then?
Well, we had a lot of conversations about what we were sort of envisioning for this multimedia experience. And we had talked a lot about projections, and Aaron is putting together some really cool projections for this.
And by projections, what are we talking about? What types of things is he projecting?
Yeah, we have, for some parts of it, it's like swirling images. There are times for one of the pieces we're looking at doing like a bunch of Chicago buildings, because the song is about downtown and the city. There's one that refers to construction work and also demolition of buildings, and so that one is going to include some projections of some buildings being demolished. There's one of the pieces that we're looking at actually projecting the dancers up as the dancers are dancing.
Oh, cool.
And there's another piece that we're looking at filming from above and projecting the aerial view while they're dancing.
Okay, so
we're seeing the frontal view while the aerial view is being projected.
So this is something that you don't just Google and pick up off the internet.
No.
You're talking about things that literally had to then be videotaped in the style and in the perspective that Aaron has in his head,
right,
and you have in your head, and you have to do this. So when are you doing all this?
Well, Aaron actually did quite a bit of that.
Oh, he did?
The projection and the filming, yeah. And so we're kind of coordinating some of that together.
So when did he start doing that?
He's been collecting some images. There's some of the projection or some of the filming that hasn't happened yet, that we're still trying to figure out exactly where and how that's going to take place. So we still have a couple weeks to get that figured out, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so we'd talked about those kinds of images, and because of the projections being part of the dance piece, I started thinking about how can that become interactive, because that image already is somewhat interactive.
Right.
And the projection, we know it's going to be on the performers as well. And so rather than, a lot of times when you have a projection going on, like even if somebody's doing a PowerPoint projection and it's on them, we try to avoid that.
Right.
And we try
because of the shadow in the back.
Right. And if that happens, it's a mistake. And we realized we need to make it into a choice, that there are some pieces that they will be projected upon. And so the costumes are going to be done so that they can be projected.
And probably next week we'll be interviewing the costumer. So this will be very interesting. These are things that we really don't consider as an audience when we're watching it, but then realize that Well, if there's going to be a projection of a person, if there's going to be a projection onto a person, are you wanting to see the projection literally on the costume or
Well, and
behind you, or
just last week,
Yeah.
Daryl and I were talking about, he had a couple of different options for the pants that the guys were wearing in one of the scenes. And we discussed the pros and cons of different fabrics based on the projections.
Mhm.
And so all of our events are collaborative. The designers and the directors always work closely together, but this is one where we've kicked collaboration up a notch.
Cool.
And we really, we have to consider all the nuances at all times.
So is there projection in every song? Because he's using a lot of rock and roll music.
Right.
A lot of it is from Styx, to give you an idea of the age of music that's going to be performed.
There are just a few moments that we've chosen to not be projecting,
So then,
but I believe that's a moment within a song where we don't have projection right now, and then it comes back.
so because projection is such a big part of this, then you're having to deal with the atmosphere of the rest of the space.
Right.
And so let's go up
And
here
so-
and kind of, you can talk about
Okay.
how you're trying to create this new kind of projection atmosphere, right?
Right, and so some of the things we've got going for projection and for that interaction is we've got a bunch of these ribbon drops that we're in process of making, that these will be hung on either side of the stage. And then across the back, there's a ribbon drop, a solid drop, a ribbon drop, solid ribbon.
Okay. So
so that these
you'll
give-
have how many of those then? You'll probably
There
have
are,
8?
of just the ribbons, 5.
5, okay.
But there's 7 total, I believe.
Yeah.
But what happens is these hang and they'll become a projection surface
Sure.
that the performers can then go through.
Interesting.
So, like,
this
there's-
acts like a screen that's torn
It
up.
says, yep,
And look at this as to how long this is.
They're
I mean, we're
18
talking,
feet.
how long is it?
18 feet.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow. And I would think that there's also a certain amount of atmospheric movement that you utilize with this also because it's hanging there.
Right, and some of them in the back, we're not trying to weight down the drops
Right.
to keep them stationary. They're gonna move.
So even,
And when the
even
dancers
when
go
the
past
dancers
them,
move,
They're gonna move.
the movement of air or even the ventilation system,
They're
that
gonna
will
move.
actually give it a certain amount of movement.
Yep,
So
it's totally interactive.
So then, if you're dealing with that, that is a great segue then into, okay, you've got this movement, but you don't want it to look like, well, you just don't want it to look, you want to give it a little bit more magicalness than just having the fabric itself being shown. So that's where the lights come in.
Right, the
And so-
projections and the lights.
So let's come over here, and this is some of the lights that you're working with at this
Correct.
point. And why don't you tell us a little bit about these? These kind of look like robot vacuum cleaners
They kind of do.
that clean the floor,
They
right?
kind of do. And they are,
Hello!
they're intelligent lights. So they move. We can program them to pan and tilt, change colors.
So the
change
parts that
logos.
move, let's just look at one of these real fast here. So, so this moves,
Yep,
and this is where the light comes out, so,
Right.
and it's got a lens on it, okay? And so it moves this way,
yep.
but
it-
also,
This way. Right,
And-
so it pans and it tilts. And then inside, it can iris, so it can make the light a smaller circle or a
Uh-huh.
bigger circle.
okay,
And then we have patterns inside,
gobos?
gobos.
And where do you fit those in?
They,
Can you open this up? Here, why don't you even come a little closer here?
I wanted to make sure it wasn't plugged in.
I mean, it's not very often you get to actually see
That's
inside of one of
true.
these things, you know?
Let's see if I can get this guy open.
There we go.
So it's got,
Yeah, so come real close here, so you can see that there are different lenses in
there's
here.
all kinds
and
of
also
gears going.
colors also,
There's
right?
colors,
Colors are down here.
and then there's different colors through here. And there's some that are patterned colors that can, and then each of these can spin in its own spot.
So here
So
are
they can-
blues, we're dealing blues, and now I can see that it's shifting over here to purples, to violets.
Can you get it, can you see in there okay?
Yeah, very cool.
So these are, I mean, these are
Expensive.
expensive and pretty high tech. You know, I know how to use them, but not the whole detail on how they work,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah,
Kind of
It's
like I
pretty
know how to-
complex.
It's very complex.
yeah. But, so then, to program, so you can actually program them to, at a certain point, you just have the person press the button on the light board.
Correct.
And this will automatically do,
Right.
and then down to your feet, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
And then program button,
Right.
and then hitting it here or whatever.
And it will make those noises.
Yeah, they're old enough now. They do
do.
kind of make those
They
noises
kinda
every
do.
once in a while. Yeah, some of them are needing repair actually now.
But one of the things that's nice about these, and why I definitely want to use a bunch of them in the show, is that this is rock and roll lighting.
Right.
This is- Although, and that's where we're kind of, you know, even though the music that we're going from is primarily 80s music, and in the 80s, rock and roll lighting was more banks of park hands than these movers. But we still, you know, when you see the halftime show this weekend, there's going to be
Right.
1,000 of these movers.
Well, and that's the thing is that even Elton John is still performing.
Right.
And so they've updated all of their lighting system
Right.
now. And there isn't a person around who hasn't seen a Broadway show or a concert where all of a sudden at the end of a song somebody goes boom like this, and all of a sudden at that point all the lights that are all around here, and then all of a sudden they just kind of turn and swoop and boom right down onto that individual. And
Right.
that's what these kinds of lights do.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But they aren't cheap,
No,
are they?
No, and like for the halftime show, or if you go to see Elton John or one of those, they're gonna have hundreds
Yeah.
of these, and
And what do one of these cost now?
about 5,000.
4 of these.
For a basic.
5 of these. Yeah, for a basic.
You can
basic.
easily spend 15 to 30,000 on
Yeah.
a really nice one of these.
Yeah. So technology is not cheap, people.
No.
It's not cheap.
It's not.
So we try to take care of them. Nice
We do.
girl, nice
We do.
girl. We try to take care of them as much as we
That's why all
can.
these are out, is I'm going through and checking all of them and seeing what works, what doesn't,
Mhm.
what we need to repair, what we need to clean,
Mm.
things like that, so.
And you, people, can see these types of lights at work. You can see the ribbons flowing and having dancers go through them. You can see the projections on the screens.
It's gonna, and I got to see a run-through this week. It's a fun show. And it's energetic throughout. It's not that long.
Right, it's about an hour.
It's about
Under
an hour.
Little under an hour.
And there's, in all shows, there's that moment where you're just, you know, it's sort of like, oh, nothing's really happening right now.
Mhm.
No, this is one that it just goes boom, boom, boom.
Very cool.
It just transitions from
And
one
this
to
is
the next.
and this is the premiere performance here at Casper College for Aaron Wood, our new dance faculty member. So you can see this. This is going to be a big deal. You can see this rock and roll dance fantasy starting on Thursday night, February 22nd. That's only 3 weeks from now.
Right.
3 weeks from yesterday. So we've already sold 25% of the ticket capacity already. So there are only 3 weeks left. People are going to start buying tickets. It's a smaller house, so the tickets are going to go faster. And I know I tend to say this almost in every show that, oh, you know, we might sell out, we might sell out. Well, we've had some really, really close ones so far this year already. Mm-hmm. So if you really want to see this and be a part of this whole new kind of dance extravaganza, come and see this show. February 22nd it starts, then it's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday matinee. Then the next week it's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. 8 performances, rock and roll fantasy. Come see it and come see Chontelle's wizardry and artistry.
Thank you.
With lights and scenery, and that's
it's fun.
it.
So come
It's
enjoy
fun.
yourself.
Yeah, and it's very age appropriate for anybody,
Mm-hmm.
ages 5 and up. So bring your kids along. Thank you, and we'll see you next week. I think we have on the docket either our costumer next week, or we're going to interview a couple of the dancers from the show. So stay tuned for the next Facebook Live, 1 o'clock Friday. Signing off. See ya.